How can you be your own person when there's so many external influences of like people, your social group, your family, social media?
Yeah, I saw that same question. I thought, be your own person. Like, I don't know if anybody can answer that. Like, what are we when we think about, who's the inner person? It's a social construction, we say in sociology, right? Like, there's no decision you've made that was solely you. For example, everything you chose to wear, what you're eating, who your friends are, a voice in your head, we say, many say in sociology, it's not you, it's us. So who are you? I mean, that's the eternal question. I'm going to keep it short, I don't have an answer.
You say being an influencer, what do you mean by that?
I think I probably am an influencer in that my passion that I teach is intro, so it's that first year university experience, that's what I'm committed to teaching. I think a lot of students will watch the performance of a lecture, and I think I can influence how people see the social world at that point in their life, because they're new to Victoria, they're traveling, they're on their own, they're starting to mature. I think I do influence that view. I'm committed not to be dogmatic in the view you need to have, but I work very hard to help students open their eyes to see the world as it truly is. And it's not always good in sociology. Yeah.
Are you optimistic about our society's future?
Absolutely. And the reason is, in sociology, we talk about all the bad stuff. Like, there's no, today's happy day in sociology. It's social inequality, racism, gender identity. It's all the isms and everything bad. And many students get frustrated and say, well, how can it be so depressing all the time? Why aren't we depressed? Because I believe deeply, if you understand the challenges that many people face, you commit to make it better. I'm an internal optimist because every year I teach, the students get better and better and more passionate about themselves and the world around them that are better than when I was young. So there may be those that it's going to be very difficult to work with the environment and many of the challenges we have on the earth today, but I'm an optimist because the alternative I don't want to perceive.
What's something about sociology or a story that you find surprising to people?
Sociological insight that they would find surprising. I think there's lots depending on topics. Some people really resonate with a sexuality topic, a gender or religion topic, but I think one that kind of transcends all of those is the perception that so many in our society today, you can think politicians, you can think leaders in certain ways, they offer a simple black and white view of the world, of right and wrong, good and evil, us and them. And I think when students start to explore that we're all on the spectrum, that there isn't beauty in a black and white, the beauty is in the shades of gray, in the non-judgment. And I think when students start to interrogate that idea that there is no rightness or wrongness, those are socially defined, that there's a lot of freedom in that. And a lot of fear, because black and white thinking is simple and safe. Shades of gray is much more difficult.
What advice would you give yourself when you were 20?
That is so good when you start looking back at the life lived. I would say always go with your gut, because when you don't, you suffer some consequences that may not be bad and tragic, but you have that inner sense that wasn't the place for me, that wasn't the decision to make. And I made some really good decisions and some I'd like to change, but I think my best advice to me is you know what you need, when you need it, and go with it. And don't plan too far in advance, because you never know when you're getting that fork. And life is going to give you lots of forks. You can't plan for the fork, you can't plan for 2 forks. Just make a decision when you're given a fork. Yeah?
There's a lot of people who hear you, but not a lot to listen to you. How you can help them to listen, if you can.
I do large lectures. I would say, this is just a guess, I would say 50% do listen. You can see them pondering and thinking, and that 50% will vary class to class. Some people connect that day. Some people are worried about getting a text. Some people are planning for something else. But I think at different points through a lecture and through a course, you connect with different people at different times. So I know they listen when they get that reflective look on their face. And some of them will come up after. And I don't think I have that effect on everyone. But over 3 months, I hope every single student has something like that where they sit. And I often say, I want to upset students. Right? My classroom is not a safe place. I don't want it to be safe because the world isn't safe. And I don't believe in trigger warnings because my discipline is a trigger. That's what I believe I do, is have at different times. And I don't do it for dramatic effect, but I want a student to be challenged and to sit back and say, why are you saying that? That frustrates me. And then ask me or come and see me. Because I think that's the point when they do start to listen and learn. So it's hard for me because of the big classes. I hope some of them do. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for a student who's struggling to go through with their own plan in life and step out of like societal norms or norms of the family, like in terms of career path or maybe even romance?
Yeah, again, go with your gut. I was doing a presentation to students and their parents that were coming to UVic in the fall. And some student asked me a question like, what's your best advice? And my dean is sitting right beside me. And I said, my best advice is, if you want to travel, travel. UVic will always be here. And she's like, I think the best advice is you know yourself. And you know yourself as something that is fixed or not. You're fluid. Those social things, what you need for an occupation and all that, you have to pull that apart. Why do you feel you need that career? It's because we tell you you need it. Do you really need it and want it? And I see students now starting to challenge that idea. Maybe I don't need to make 100,000. Right? Maybe I need to do this. Maybe I'll come back after a gap year. So around romance, no, I'll leave you to deal with the romance. I don't delve in that sociology, although there's some good stuff written on it. Yeah.
You said that you don't focus on making your classroom a safe space. Do you think there's a difference between a quote-unquote safe or unsafe space and an uncomfortable space?
Yes. When I say I don't use my classroom as a safe space is not to alienate anyone, and there's some of my former students that are in here. It's not to protect or advantage any single person or identity. It's to suggest that I think we all grow. The cis, middle class, male grows in an environment that challenges all of us, not in a judgmental way, in a compassionate way that we're all learning. And I think I can ask my students to talk to that. I think I'm able to do that by how I respond to students in the class. That nobody is preferred or advantaged in this classroom coming from a preferred and advantaged teacher who realizes their position.
Right.
So that's what I mean by that. And the unsafe is not to interrogate or hurt. It is to allow everybody that space. And the last thing I'll say about that, there's a lot of young, white, cis men that aren't feeling safe and they're feeling attacked and all that, and I want to get into that too. Why they feel that way and why there is a price that white middle class cis men need to pay. And what we need to pay is realize our historical advantage. And once you do that, then I think that's an opportunity.
Thank you.
Is there any challenge that you personally go through daily? Or is there any fear that you personally have in terms of intellectual thinking or?
I don't think intellectually I have fears. I have anxieties about how messages can be received, in that I know my intent when I say something, but there's 300 different receivers of that message, and I worry about that. I worry about having a discussion that is very emotionally laden for a person in that room that I could not predict or know. What happens after that class? Like, have I stirred them up and then left them alone to go somewhere at the end of it? So I worry about that. I worry about grades and students being so identified with the score they get and their anxiety that says I am not good. No, it doesn't. It says you're not good right there. Not you. You know, we got to help you. So I fear that. That's what some of my concerns are. Personal editorial. I'm concerned about people that are teaching that shouldn't teach and don't want to teach. And I think great researchers should be allowed to be great researchers, and great teachers should be allowed to be great teachers. But I think we diminish both when we force them to the other side.
Well,